We're going to review the application guidelines for JM white EPDM peel and stick flashing for TPO applications. In this application scenario, we have an overflow scupper. Here, our scupper has been slid through the opening in the wall, and the flanges have been cut for the scupper, bent over the top onto our TPO flashing. Behind the flanges on our overflow scupper, JM single-ply sealing mastic has been installed behind all flanges and has been compressed by fastening the flanges. The first part in our application process is to thoroughly clean our TPO membrane, flashing, and metal scupper, which will receive our new flashing. It's important to note that we have to extend this cleaner. We have to clean the membrane well beyond all areas which will be primed and new flashing will be installed. After our membrane and flashing and scupper has been cleaned, the next step that we take is we're going to pre-cut our pieces of flashing. This overflow scupper is going to be flashed with 4 separate pieces of our white flashing. It's important to note that all overflow scuppers on roofs, the elevation from the roof to the scupper here will change on every project. Here I've used a piece of 9-inch flashing. It's important to note that when we pre-cut this flashing and we install this flashing, that our flashing has to extend 3 inches minimum beyond all areas of the metal flange, as well as it needs to extend into the scupper a minimum of 2 inches. In this instance, I've cut a piece of 9-inch flashing. As this is 3 inches, this will give me my minimum of 3 inches, and it'll extend my minimum of 2 inches into the scupper. The next thing that I'll do is I'm going to position my flashing where it's going, and I'm actually going to take some primer and I'm going to trace outside of my flashing to ensure that my piece of flashing will be fully set in primer. We want to extend our primer beyond our flashing. After we've installed our primer, we want to let our primer flash off properly before we install the flashing. We're now ready to install our flashing to the primer once our primer is flashed off and is tacky. It's very important that once our flashing has been installed, that our flashing is rolled in properly. After this piece of flashing has been installed, the next step that we're going to take is install the 2 corresponding sides to cover these pieces of metal flashing. It's important to note that once we apply primer, that we have to install our primer onto the white flashing as well, that will receive an overlap from this piece of flashing. After our flashing has been installed, the last step that we want to take is we want to caulk the edges of our flashing with JM single ply LVOC white caulking.